So whereas my father spoke 11 languages and my mother speaks 8,
Yeah.
although to be fair, she speaks 5 fluently, the other 3 she's a little broken on. My sister and
Oh,
I
that's
only
it.
speak
Yeah.
English.
Yeah.
And we did that before we even came to the States.
Sure.
Before we even came to America, we were still only speaking English because it was
Sure.
just easier than trying to have us learn multiple languages.
Right.
There's a lot of aspects of Indian culture that I do not appreciate, even though I was raised there and I
Yeah.
was raised seeing all these variations of it. But there's a lot of aspects of American culture that I don't truly appreciate.
Sure.
There's a lot of aspects of, and I think that as you grow and become an adult, there has to be a point where you look at any given culture and you pick and choose.
Yeah.
And I think that the failure is assuming that because you don't fit in 100%,
Mm.
that that is your fault. And it's
Mm.
not.
Mm.
It is a failure of the culture to not be inclusive, not a failure of
Mm.
the person
Mm.
to be to prune themselves into the shape. At least that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
I think that if we if we forced everybody to be the same, we'd never have David Bowie. For God's sakes.
Sure.
Like if we forced everybody to be the same, Freddie Mercury would never have been a musician. He would never
Yeah.
have sung.
Yeah.
And that's two recent musicians. I'm not even talking about like
The list
let's
goes
talk
on and
about
on. Yeah.
and as an immigrant, speaking of an immigrant talking about first gen,
Yeah.
I actually have a serious bone to pick with a lot of first gen Indian folk
Mm.
because they seem to have this artificially crude and harsh view of what back home is like.
Mm.
And I grew up there. So I know what it was like. And
Right.
sometimes I have conversations with first gen Indian folk, especially in New York. It's happened a couple of times where I have to point out, look, I have more in common with your parents than I do with you, even though I'm your age.
Mm.
Like I have so much more in common with your parents because we can talk about the food we miss.
Yeah.
We can talk about the things we miss doing. We can talk about, how nice it was to sometimes just, you get on a train and then like you fall asleep on the train, you wake up in the morning and you're in the middle of a nature preserve. And in 20, 30 minutes, some kid's going to come running up and he's going to, sell you coffee or tea.
Sure.
And you can't do that here. I mean,
Yeah.
where the hell am I going to see an elephant in the wild in America?
Right.
It's probably not going to happen.
Right.
But I still think that those kids are doing themselves a disservice because they're trying to fit into a mold of a theoretical culture that doesn't really exist that way.